The history of warfare is packed with examples of daring and bravery, loss and grief, and bizarre circumstances. The war machine is made up of many pieces, all working together in unity, with each piece performing a specific job. When one piece fails, the whole machine can crumble. Such was the case with German U boat 1206. The German Blitzkrieg stormed through the Netherlands in May of 1940, on its path to occupying most of Europe during World War II. At that time, Dutch submarines O-25, O-26, and O-27 fell into the hands of the Kriegsmarine, the German Navy. These Dutch vessels included an experimental device to allow clean air to flow into the sub while allowing diesel fumes to flow out. This system allowed the submarines to stay submerged longer while using their periscope for lengthy periods of time. In 1941, the captured vessels were commissioned into the Kriegsmarine as UD-3, UD-4, and UD-5. However, the Germans did not find the experimental devices to be very useful and had them removed. Incidentally, several Dutch submarines escaped the Germans and fled to England, where the Royal Navy took ownership of them, and they too removed the experimental devices. Fast forward to 1943. Renamed by the Germans to the Schnorkel, the device was installed into the Type 2C U-boat 58 and was tested during the summer of 1943. In 1944, the Kriegsmarine retrofitted Type 7C and 9C U-boats and built new Type 11 and Type 13 U-boats with the Schnorkel included. But problems arose. Vessels equipped with the Schnorkel were forced to operate no faster than 6 knots. Otherwise, the device's air mast would break off. The air vent also tended to close up, forcing the vessel to surface to release the dangerous gases from the diesel engine. The U-boat's hydrophone array, a submarine's listening device, was also rendered useless as the noise from the diesel engine produced interference, preventing any meaningful observations. An obstacle to overcome on any submarine is the elimination of waste from the vessel while submerged. This includes, awkwardly, human waste from the toilets. Allied submarines of the time stored waste inside onboard septic tanks and would discharge the tanks overboard when at a safe distance from shore. But this took up space, added more weight, and could produce undesirable odors. The Germans, instead, jettisoned the waste into the sea, but this could only be done while close to the surface, where the exterior pressure was much lower. But surfacing or even being near the surface became extremely dangerous by 1945, as submarine detection technology had advanced, resulting in heavy U-boat losses for the Kriegsmarine. In response, German engineers developed a high-pressure, deep-water system to release waste from the toilets. This complex system included a series of valves to be operated in a very specific order. Waste was channeled through a number of airlocks before being launched into the sea with a blast of high-pressure compressed air, much like traditional torpedoes. The procedure was so complicated that special technicians were trained to operate the system whenever the toilet was used. If the valves were not opened and closed in the proper order, waste and seawater could flood the hull, causing imminent and extreme danger. U-boat 1206 was a Type 7C U-boat commissioned in March of 1944 and later retrofitted with the Schnorkel. On April 14, 1945, the vessel was on its first ever combat patrol, after its training missions, under the command of 27-year-old Kapitan Lieutenant Karl Adolf Schlitt. While submerged 200 feet beneath the surface of the North Sea, Schlitt had the need to use the new Wonder Toilet. Being the commander, he did not wish to call for a lowly technician to operate the toilet, believing he could do it himself. After conducting his business, Schlitt became confused by the complex machine, and not being trained on its use was forced to call for the technician. Ironically, the technician was not fully trained either, and he was mostly unfamiliar with the working of the new deepwater toilet. He opened the valves in the incorrect order, causing a surge of seawater to rush into the hull through an open valve. The vessel's batteries, located directly beneath the toilet, were swamped with seawater. In case you don't recall your high school level chemistry, when salt water interacts with the acid electrolytes inside of a battery, electrolysis occurs and the reaction produces lethal chlorine gas. Within a submerged U-boat, this is a terribly dangerous and critical situation. The only option for a submarine, in this case, is to surface, open the hatches, and release the deadly gas. Schlitt did exactly this, and ordered the vessel's ballast and torpedoes to be jettisoned. U-1206 quickly surfaced. While the chlorine gas was vented, he found a new danger. He had surfaced directly below a Royal Air Force patrol squadron. The planes bombed the vessel, causing significant damage. Schlitt ordered the destruction of secret equipment on board before scuttling the vessel, and its crew abandoned her in 4 inflatable rafts. 2 Royal Navy trawlers spotted U-1206 during its final moments, as it rolled over and sank. The trawler Nadzu picked up 23 of the German crewmen from 2 of the rafts and turned them in to authorities at Aberdeen. 14 more from a 3rd raft were rescued by the fishing vessel Reaper out of Peterhead. The remaining raft made it to the Scottish shore near Bottom. 3 had already drowned in the rough seas, but 6 men made it ashore. They scaled the steep rocky cliffs before being spotted by locals and apprehended by members of the Home Guard. Schlitt was taken to Peterhead, where he surrendered his sidearm. Less than a month later, the war in Europe ended with the surrender of Germany on May 7, 1945. The wreck of the U-1206 was discovered in 1970 during pipeline work by British Petroleum. BP tracked down Carl Adolf Schlitt and brought him to Scotland, where he was reunited with the crew of the Reaper that rescued him. Schlitt presented them with a plaque, thanking them for saving his life and commemorating the reunion. The wreck of the U-1206 was rediscovered by divers in 2012, who positively identified it as the U-1206. It remains in relatively good condition, 12 miles off the coast of Aberdeen, Scotland, under 86 meters of water. It rests on a flat, sandy bottom with a 45-degree list to port. The vessel's periscope and anti-aircraft guns have been torn away by a trawling net, but lie nearby, just off the port side, entangled in the net. The Schnorkel device remains visible and intact. Long after the end of the war, the son of a former crew member and survivor of the U-1206 claimed that Schlitt and the other officers caused the leak purposely to scuttle the ship and surrender to the Allies. This was reportedly told to the man's father directly by Schlitt himself. Kapitan Lieutenant Carl Adolf Schlitt outlived all other crew members of the U-1206 and died in 2009 at the age of 90. Another submarine story you may enjoy is that of the German submarine U-53. Under Commander Hans Rosa, U-53 made a historic surprise visit to Newport, Rhode Island in 1916, when the United States was still neutral. They greeted a curious public and welcomed U.S. Navy personnel on board. And U-53 went on to sink 78 ships between 1916 and 1918. You can hear the whole story of the U-53 and Hans Rosa in Episode 13 of Shipwrecks and Sea Dogs.